Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business on this Monday morning. Got the one and only Steve Beaman here on the program. He comes on every Monday. We kind of look back at the last week's news, kind of prepare for some things that may be coming down the pike. Talk a little bit about this Eurozone unemployment heading for 20 million. You know, I expected it to have been higher than that. Isn't the Eurozone about the same in population as the U.S., about 300 million?
Yeah, I actually think it's just a touch bigger.
So their unemployment is actually lower than ours? Well, what's up with that?
It's how they measure it and how we measure ours. So I think you need to be a little bit cautious whenever you look at these statistics, Kevin. The fact is Europe is in a real problem. They've got Greece, Spain, and Italy on the verge of bankruptcy constantly. You've got England ready to back out. You've got Germany saying, hey, we're tired of carrying all the weight here. So you've got real systemic problems. I think the euro could be seeing its last days if they don't fix some of these social welfare programs.
I tell you, I predicted when they were debating it, the euro was going to make an incredible mess out of Europe, and at some point you'd have to abandon it because the thing is built on too many benefits and not enough accountability and responsibility.
It's reminiscent of the Articles of Confederation used in the United States before our current Constitution. It's just a weak form of government. You have no controls on the member states. And so, of course, they're going to abuse it to their own interest, and that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the U.S. consumer sentiment rallies to 6-year high in May. What's up with that?
Well, folks are starting to feel a little bit, I think some of it a little more normal, if you will, with this malaise we've got. We've got 1.5–2% growth rates, and I think people are kind of getting to a point of going, okay, well, as long as it doesn't get any worse than that, we're okay with it. But clearly, this is not an economy that should be generating a great deal of confidence. Corporate earnings are up. The stock market's up, which is a huge driver behind that confidence index. But the market's up because of two things. The Fed is artificially keeping rates low, and corporations have cut costs significantly, which have allowed them to raise earnings. So I think the consumer confidence they're showing is a little bit misrepresentative, and I think it is quick to turn if interest rates start to move up here.
Yeah, you and I have been talking for quite a bit about the so-called new normal. And you know what? Americans are just incredibly entrepreneurial. They just trudge along. They got to make a living. They can't just be held hostage by the political process. But I'm telling you, if we get satisfied by numbers like this, God help us all.
Well, Kevin, it's true, and that's why I love being on the program. You and I have such quality discussions about this kind of thing. We need to wake up Americans that our historical growth rate in the United States is over 4% a year. And if we can get back to that historical growth rate and we can somewhat control government spending, and I'm saying the growth in government spending, we can actually eradicate our deficits in a reasonable period of time. So we need to get back focused on that. We need to unleash the power of the American spirit. And we can only do that by getting government out of the way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, of course, the paltry first quarter numbers for the year of 2.5% have now been downgraded to 2.4% for growth. What do you say about that?
Well, I think they're lucky they even got that. And I think as we see the Obamacare program come in line and start to drain down folks more, I think that's going to have a major impact on hiring and on full-time employment. In addition, we've now got little things hitting the American people, not just these scandals in Washington, but you've got the housing or the Health and Human Services coming out. They were budgeted $1 billion to implement Obamacare. They're now saying it's going to cost $5 billion. And anyone in the private sector sits back and says, wow, I would be fired if I made that big a mistake.
Oh, well, in this administration, they'll get a promotion.
No, it's an unbelievable circumstance. And we also watch China, who is making moves each and every day to move away from using the dollar as a reserve currency. So I think there's a lot for folks to watch, and they need to listen to your program and go to U.S. Daily Review more often than ever to make sure they're kept up to speed on what important things are happening for them.
By the way, if you want your voice heard at our big event that we're going to be doing with, and I say events, we got the Pachyderm Club, we got Sugarland Tea Party, looks like a couple of other patriot groups here in the area are going to be coming through as well. I want people to contact me at info@usdailyreview.com. That's info@usdailyreview.com. Also, you can check Steve's column every week over there at usdailyreview.com. He does a fabulous job. Love working with him. Love in our ongoing efforts to help keep America free or to actually restore freedom, because let's face it, it sure has taken a beating.
It has indeed, and I think I was talking to my kids this morning about they don't even realize how much freedom has declined in this country over the last 40 years. If you have a child that suffers from asthma, you know you can't go to the grocery store anymore and buy a Primatene Mist off the counter. And that's because of a Food and Drug Administration who said that the propellant for that could be bad for the environment. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous. So there's a lot to do, but, Kevin, we have to go out and change it from the bottom up, and that means we empower people with the knowledge they need to lift themselves up, and that's what we're all about. So it's why I'm so pleased to be with you every Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're saying that, the consumer confidence is at an all-time high, but I'm reading here in CNNMoney.com that actually consumers pulled back on spending. And so, people are confident about spending other people's money or that others are going to spend money? I mean, you got to look at these two type of surveys and go, what?
You've got to be careful, Kevin. We've got folks with their 401ks who 5 years ago thought the world had come to an end, and now they've fully recovered. So they're feeling pretty good about things. Well, you know what? That can change, and we talk a lot about how people need to be hedging their bets. Clearly, with what China is doing, folks need to be looking globally at their investment portfolio, and they don't need to become complacent just because we've seen a stock market rise in the last 4 years. These things can turn around, and right now, if the government doesn't get its ways under control, I think we could see some real problems brewing in the markets. Yeah,
and just to confirm your point, FoxNews.com reporting that that wealth of average U.S. households remain far below pre-recession level. And I think everyone I know that confirms it's now 91% regained. And I think that may be a little generous.
I think it is. And so folks are now seeing real estate make some comebacks, in pockets around the country. They've seen the market go up. But I keep going back to that theme, Kevin, that says be cautious. We've got interest rates at historically unbelievably low rates. If they let those go up at all, you're going to see a slowdown once again in real estate, which is why they don't want them to go up. We're going to see consumer borrowing go back down, and that's going to all affect the corporate top-line sales growth, which is what's been driving this market.
Yep, no question about it. Again, Steve Beaman, he's on every week, every Monday, getting us informed what's happening in the news last week. What are you looking for this week? What stories are you watching?
Well, I continue to watch China as it advances on this movement to manipulate its currency. It's actually coming out to buy Armor Foods in the United States, and that's a bit of a strategic concern. We don't want foreign companies owning our food source. So that's clearly something I'm watching very closely. And also on Wednesday, we are due to get a letter response from the Attorney General on his at least theoretical possible, what other hedge word do you want to use, but his possible perjury, in which he said he knew nothing about the media scandal, but it turns out his hand was the writing on the subpoena. So I watch for that, and again, that just creates chaos in Washington, which creates uncertainty in the markets.
Clearly, I'm going to have to get Sigmund, our producer, to download Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. I know nothing at all.
This administration. I look back at Ronald Reagan, or I look back even at LBJ. As much as I don't agree with him and his policies, he accepted responsibility for what went on in the government.
Yep.
You've got a situation now where there's no top. It's just run by mid-level bureaucrats, and nobody's accountable for anything.
It's kind of like an overflowing toilet, but I won't go there. All right, his name's...
running your business, Kevin. I'd like to see how long you stay in business.
I would not be in very long. And considering how long I've been in there, I don't know how these guys get away with that. That's crazy.
Because we let them.
Steve Beaman is an incredible commentator, a thought leader, in my opinion, and this is why we get him on every week, talking about what's happening here on The Price of Business. By the way, you can learn more about Steve and what we're doing with the Society for the Advancement of Financial Education by going to stevebemangroup.org. Steve is not only on this program every week, but programs all over the country, national personality, and we're looking forward to having him here in Houston. Thanks for all you do.
Always a pleasure, Kevin. It's a great honor to be with you, and I hope folks will visit U.S. Daily Review and get their news from you.
Thank you, my friend. All right, when we come back, much more for you. You know what? While we take that break, why don't you check out USDailyReview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter.